The text came in on a Sunday morning while I was still in my slippers. Because of you, we're about to lose the house. I hope you're proud of yourself. I read it 3 times, standing at my kitchen counter with my coffee going cold. 3 months earlier, my own daughter had called me a coward for refusing to sign my name on a piece of paper. Now she was telling me I'd ruined her life by refusing. To understand how a simple no turned into that text, I have to take you back to a Tuesday night in March, when my son-in-law walked into my kitchen holding a folder instead of asking how my week was. My name's Walter Briggs. Everybody calls me Walt. I'm 64, and I spent 31 years as an aircraft mechanic for one of the major airlines out of Hartsfield-Jackson, working nights so other people's flights would leave on time. I lost my wife, Ruth, to cancer 2 years ago, and since then my daughter Emily is the one person I talk to every single day. No exceptions. Emily married a good-hearted, restless guy named Ryan. He's smart, hard-working, and has never once in his life believed good enough was actually good enough. That night, Ryan sat down across from me, holding a franchise brochure his gym buddy, Curtis Boone, had put in his hands 2 weeks earlier. Ryan slid the folder toward me, the way I used to slide invoices toward Ruth when I needed her to okay something big. "Dad, it's called Shineworks. Mobile car detailing, corporate-backed. And Curtis says the territory covering all of Cobb County is still open. Guys are clearing 6 figures by year 2. The number at the bottom of the page read $310,000. He didn't want cash from me, he wanted my signature to put my paid-off house up as collateral for an SBA loan. "You've got an asset just sitting there doing nothing, Dad. This could set us up for life." I told him I needed a week to actually read the paperwork. Saying that felt like swallowing glass, but 31 years of checking bolts twice had taught me that a good decision and an easy decision are rarely the same one. That single week was the first domino. Emily called that night, furious. "It's not a loan application, Dad. It's Ryan's future. Why do you need a week to believe in your own son-in-law?" I spent that week doing what 31 years of reading engine manuals had trained into me. I read the real document, not the brochure. The franchise disclosure document showed that of the last 40 Shineworks territories open nationwide, 26 had closed within 18 months. 2 former owners in Tennessee were already suing the parent company over earnings claims that never held up. I called Ryan and read him the numbers as calmly as I could manage. He went quiet, then cold. "You're always looking for a reason to say no, Dad. You've been like this since Mom died." 48 hours later, without telling me, he quit his job at the medical supply company to focus on the launch. He'd already told his boss the financing was basically locked in. That's when I felt it. The same feeling I used to get in my gut when a fitting wouldn't seat right no matter how much torque I put on it. In my old job, if a bolt doesn't sit true and you keep cranking on it anyway, you're not making the connection stronger. You're stripping the very threads that were supposed to hold it. Once threads are stripped, no amount of force will ever make that bolt hold again. You have to back it all the way out, clean the hole, and start over with something that actually fits. I could feel our whole relationship cross-threading in real time, and every guilt-trip phone call was somebody cranking harder on a bolt that was never seated right to begin with. I still wouldn't sign. So Ryan and Emily didn't wait for me. They took a second loan against their own condo and drained their savings to pay a $40,000 deposit locking in the territory, gambling that once I saw how serious they were, I'd finally cave. I didn't. 2 weeks after that deposit cleared, the remaining $270,000 in financing fell through. A lender ran their numbers and didn't like what a jobless applicant with a maxed-out home equity line looked like on paper. Ryan had no severance since he'd quit and hadn't been laid off. That Sunday morning text was Emily, sitting in a condo they could no longer afford, blaming me for a hole they'd dug entirely on their own. I won't pretend that Sunday didn't hollow me out a little. Being right didn't feel like winning. It felt like sitting alone in a quiet house, wondering if I'd traded my daughter's voice on the phone for a principle. Here's what none of us knew yet. A week after the deal collapsed, I ran into an old co-worker, Dale, at the hardware store. His nephew, 2 counties over, had also signed up for a Shineworks territory, recruited by the very same Curtis Boone. Dale mentioned, almost as an afterthought, that Curtis received a $4,000 bonus from corporate for every new franchise territory he brought in, on top of a monthly consulting fee. Curtis wasn't a buddy generously sharing a golden opportunity. He was a paid recruiter, and Ryan was his third signee in our part of Georgia alone. The other two were also drowning in debt. Ryan hadn't chased a dream, he'd been sold one by a friend who got paid every single time Ryan said yes. I didn't say "I told you so." I called Ryan and asked him to come by the garage. I laid out the franchise disclosure document, page by page, then showed him what I'd learned about Curtis. I watched something shift in his face. Not anger, just exhaustion. Like a man finally setting down something heavy he'd been carrying uphill. I told him I still wouldn't guarantee a loan I didn't believe in, but I'd co-sign something smaller and real, a $12,000 personal loan, on paper with an actual repayment schedule, just enough to get the condo current. In exchange, he had to sit with me every Sunday for 2 months and learn to read a balance sheet, the same patient way I once taught him to read a talk spec. He took the deal. He's back in medical sales now, in a better territory than before. Emily calls most days now just to talk, not to ask for anything. That same torque wrench still hangs by my garage door, and these days Ryan checks the numbers before he checks his pride. So tell me, if the people you loved most asked you to bet everything on faith alone, would you have had the strength to say no first and help second?